Alright, welcome back. Today we will be, I think mostly just meeting a bunch of NPCs and then maybe we'll slay a dragon. Um, so let's go ahead and get started on that. First things first, remember, I don't know if y'all remember the talking tree from earlier that we just sort of ignored because we had other places to be. But we're gonna go rescue him. I tell you what, I went back and watched the videos that I've already recorded, and don't ever do that for any reason.
You there? Could you help us out, Cully? What'd you go and do that for? Oh, yes. I remember. Some clod turned me into a tree. You were just breaking the spell, weren't you? Thank you. The name's Bok. I was pushed out of the cave. Told not to come back. Not ever. Then I ended up as a tree. Lucky you came along, really. Oh, what a shame. When they threw me out of the cave, they took everything I owned. And so this is all I have to express my thanks. I hope you can forgive me. Or, well, if you can afford to wait for a while, I could sneak back into the cave and bring back something of actual value. Then I'd be of some real use to you, I reckon. Right, but I'll need a moment. I'm frightened of them, so I have to gather myself. My knees start knocking, just thinking about that god-awful cave on the shore.
There isn't really a lot to add at this point. But I do know this area up here really turns off a lot of new players, and I get that because it seems really overwhelming. Little secret, yes, you will die the first few times you come in here, but none of these enemies are actually difficult. If you're just, if you're patient, the dragon or the troll will kill most of them for you. And then the troll himself doesn't turn out to be super difficult. Just big and scary and hard to get sort of a handle on. Good lord. You would think I'd be able to land one attack occasionally. Watch me after I said that die here. That would be... That sounds like something I'd do. Worth noting, this dude knows how to use a sword. He's not, like, completely mindless at least. Also, for the record, there's no reason why you have to do this. Like, I could have left. I could have just run right by this guy. I would have been fine. Why am I bad? I don't think... Oh, shoot. Oh, I screwed that one up pretty bad. But anyway. Yeah, it's not a hard fight. Even if you, you show up and you stink and you realize that you were using the sword one-handed the whole time. Even though, the two-handed would have done a lot more damage. And that's why you couldn't get your staggers. It's still not like a super difficult fight. So I love this. This guy has that horn, and you'll see that a lot where dudes have horns that can... The enemies have horns that can, like, call their buddies to help them fight. But there's only, like, 3 dudes, and they're all within his line of sight, so I don't know why that guy in particular has a horn. Also, really good quality of life thing that I like in this game is the potion refill thing, where if you clear groups of enemies like out in the field, it won't work in dungeons, but out in the field, it'll drop additional healing charges. So as long as you're doing well, you can stay out without resting for a very long time. These, you know, sky dogs. Remember I mentioned that there is a giant temple in the sky that's sort of crumbling and falling to the ground? There's no obviously there's no confirmation in game, but I assume that's what they're trying to communicate, is that those dudes are coming from there. We've already seen that the temple's sort of affiliated with beasts. We had the Beastman of Farum Azula was like the first boss we killed. So that is my assumption, is just that that's where those wolves come from.
Everyone's been grafted. Everyone who came with me. They crossed the sea for me. They fought for me. Only to have their arms taken. Their legs taken. Even their heads taken. Taken and stuck to the spider. Did you know? If you're grafted by the spider, you become a chrysalid. It's quite a lark when you think about it. You're all on your own, are you? And heading to Stormvale Castle? Enticed by the one in the white mask, I suppose. Oh, you've come to be one with the spider? Well, that makes us 2 peas in a pod. But I don't have your courage. It's scary, you know, having your arms cut off. Or legs. Or your head. I want to be like everyone else, but I'm just too scared. I'm nothing but a craven. Oh, I know. Can you take this little one along with you? The poor thing deserves someone braver than myself. And the spirits look rather fondly upon you. It'll be glad of your company, I think, the little un. It was a pleasure to see you. Oh, can you pass on a message for me? If you see the little chrysalids in Stormvale Castle, tell them I love them. And that, despite my craven heart, I'm sure I'll be joining their club soon enough. I'm finally getting the hang of this whole pain thing, you know.
Okay, so lots of stuff. Lots of stuff I want to talk about. To start out with, we see this cloak, but in blue, in the DLC trailer. It's being used by a character who's doing a sleeping spell, it seems like. And there is some fan theory that this lady is somehow associated with Trina, which again, we don't have a lot on Trina yet because she's more important later in the game. But she is going to be a massively important character later in this run. Also, I mean, she's sort of the basis of the DLC, or her alter ego is. Second, she's associated with spirits. Again, I had assumed we'd be doing a spirit world thing. I am actually thrilled that I'm wrong about this. It's really boring to, get everything right. And I love that it's not going in what I thought was just like the obvious direction. But she has this relationship with spirits that Saint Trina also appears to have. And let's look at the spirit that she gave us, the spirit jellyfish ashes. Ashen remains in which spirits yet dwell. Used to summon a spirit jellyfish, a floating spirit that illuminates its surroundings. Prone to tears, the jellyfish girl searches for her distant home, will bravely spew poison at foes on her summoner's behalf. It seems her name is Aurelia. I would die for that jellyfish. That jellyfish is the purest character in this whole game. Also, she gave us a little bit more in Godric, who she called, the spider, talking about, he's taking people's arms and legs and heads and grafting them onto herself. I think I've already talked a little bit about this thing of grafting being a thing that you do with plants. When a plant is really weak or unhealthy, you can graft on. I'm going the wrong way. When a plant is really weak or unhealthy, you can graft on a healthier plant to try to make it healthier. And she also had this mention of chrysalids. We're going to see what she means by that once we get to Stormvale Castle. She's not crazy, but she's also very clearly not in her right mind when she mentions the chrysalids. Oops. Should not have gotten off the horse, apparently. And so what she thought she saw was quite a bit different than what she actually saw.
Not seen you before. Name's Bernahl. Tarnished, just like you. Let me ask you something. Are you here in the lands between to take up the fight? Does your faith in the guidance of grace hold firm, despite the collapse of the Golden Order? Yes, you're a Tarnished through and through. Takes me back. But that's a quality needed now more than ever. Any interest in bearing the torch of my battle arts? All I know is the sword. Picked up a fair few tricks in my time, too. Now's the time to pass them on. To a good and proper Tarnished, like you. There's a myriad of battle arts in these lands that I've yet to discover. Mementos of all the warriors who raised their arms in battle, lost and died. A fine tale, all told of true chivalric romance. That's how I fell in love with the sword and the arts of combat. It grants meaning even to falling in battle, to death itself.
I don't know if there's any of these. Well, we'll grab that one.
Well, until we meet again.
Now, we've mentioned the beasts and especially the lions before. Notice all of the beasts on his armor. He's got, you know, he's just covered in pictures of lions. Bernahl is a character who we aren't going to see again unless we decide to buy some more of the battle arts. If I decide I needed one for a build, we aren't going to see him within the context of the story for a long time. It's going to be quite a while, but he's an interesting character, and when we do see him again, he's going to be quite a bit different. He's a personal favorite of mine. Now, this path has about 1 billion of those, like, sky wolves. So, I should have gone a different way. Screw this. Is there still one left? Yeah. Oh, shoot. There's more than I remembered. These worm things, there's nothing on them. They appear to come from the ruins, perhaps, because sometimes they drop ruin fragments. There's nothing in the lore on them, like, at all. This Colosseum we'll learn a little bit more about. We've already, I think, seen the Gladiator. Whoops. That's garbage. Do the thing! There we go. So this is, this dude, the Recusant, and Bernahl are part of a storyline that, no joke, when I was planning this run, I was like, hey, I don't have enough time to do all the content, I don't think. So I'm gonna cut. Jeez. I'm gonna cut the parts that have to do with this, because I don't think it's going to be important to the DLC. Reader, it's the most prominent thing in the trailer. Like, all of the imagery associated with all the imagery in the trailer is something from this storyline involving, like, the fire magma spells. You can see those everywhere. The other stuff we're going to learn about this faction, you can see it. It's just all over the trailer. So, like, when I was planning this out, because I was planning this run out before the trailer dropped, I was like, well, we might not do that part if we run out of time. It's so important. So here again, we have the lion. this is a multiplayer area. In the original game, this wasn't even available. Basically, if I were playing online, you could go up here, you could go into the Coliseum. Well, I think you could go into the Coliseum anyway, but there's no reason to. You could go into the Coliseum, you could fight other players. It's a multiplayer area. But the Coliseum itself has some lore to it. And this, again, this lion is the sigil of Godfrey, who is a ancient relative of Godric's. So, yeah, he liked big coliseums. Is there anything else I want to do up here, or can we go ahead and... Let's go ahead and try to kill a dragon. I will be honest. There is a summon and some optional dialogue here that I cannot for the life of me figure out how to trigger. I've read it a few times. I've tried to figure out how to do it. It does not work for me. Maybe I can't find the summon sign. I don't know. But apparently, if you die to this dragon on your first attempt, you can summon him to help you kill it.
Don't be a fool. Turn back before it's too late.
Okay, that's usually what a video game character says when it's time to go do something fun. If you listen closely here, and I don't know how my game audio is, so you may not be able to hear it, but if you listen carefully here, you can hear the nobles in this ruin saying Agheel, Agheel, and then burn true. Really need to learn just like one glintstone sorcery just so I can kill these dudes and no other reason. This is a good way for me to get poisoned, but I can't help it. I want this item. Yeah, I'm gonna die, actually. I'm not just gonna get poisoned, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna literally die. And all for an Arteria leaf. Whoops. So since we got an Arteria leaf, let's look at it and read the description just to read it. Dark red leaves with thick swollen veins. Material used for crafting items, exceedingly rare to find. It's really not that rare. A faint pulse can be felt in the veins. Stirs the blood, providing an enlivening effect. Again, we've got this sort of mixing of plant and animal ideas, where plants... Oh shoot, I did not want to pull that guy. That's fine, we'll just run away. We've got this sort of mixing of plant and animal concepts where the plants can, the plants are actually have blood flowing through them. And that's not the only mention of these plants sort of having blood, of plants sort of being nourished by blood or having a pulse or having blood flow through them that we're going to hear. Here you can see those nobles are sacrificing some people. We're going to find out what to here right now. I mean, Yura did warn us. Re the dragon. Get off the stupid horse. I told you to get off the horse. Stay on the horse. For the love of God, stay on the horse. Okay. It does a lot more damage if you can hit his head. But his head is the pointy part, so, you know. Shoot! I'm gonna die here. Maybe not. Better than this, I think. Whoop. Jeez. Okay, since I died anyway, let's take a shot at triggering the optional dialogue. Or the optional summon.
You bloody half-wit. Picking a fight with a dragon. Well, I can tell you want to see it through. Seems I'm forever crossing paths with hotheads like you. I can tell you fools will be fools. I can tell you fools will be fools.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe if I had rested at a grace first, I would have gotten it. That's the one I haven't been able to figure out. I think I've gotten all the other NPC interactions in the game, though. I'll screw up and miss a couple of them, for sure, during the course of the, game. But, I think I've gotten all the others, but that one I can't figure out how to do it. Shoot! It's easier if you get off the horse, but it's also important to get on the horse when it's on the horse now. Nope. Nope. It's also easier if you don't try to repeatedly hit his head for cinematic value. Though, it does do a ton more damage if you manage to hit him in the head. Or at least a little more damage. There's also a dragonfly fight. This is how you get when you just sort of have a skill issue. There's also a dragonfly flying around, and every once in a while I accidentally lock onto the dragonfly, so it's really the game's fault. That I'm having all this problem. Like, see, I keep locking onto the giant squid who's leaving me alone. Or the, I think they call it a squirt. I think that's what it's actually called. But the poison, like, snail thing. Oh, no one's supposed to. I'm fine. Finally! I'm fighting him one-handed again! Why would I do that? It's because I've been getting on and off the horse, I think, but I definitely should be fighting him two-handed. So the dialogue that we're missing apparently is just Yura talks a little bit. He basically says, "Hey, it's been a long time since I felt a dragon like this." It just establishes something you could have guessed, which is that at one point he did hunt the dragons the same way that we're doing now.
Beautiful work, felling that dragon. And as such, there's something you might like to know. The heart you brought back. It's used in Dragon Communion. If you should find yourself overcome by hunger for the heart, yearning for its strength, then seek the decrepit church on the little island off the western coast. You must not forget, though, those who partake in Dragon Communion will one day shed their humanity, their hunger for dragon, their yearning only worsens until the floodgates burst, unleashing eternal torment. The strength of a mighty dragon. Magnificent, but deadly. It's no surprise that Dragon Communion is ruinous. You must not forget those who pay a hunger for dragon until the flood.
So, another thing we see a lot of in the trailer for the DLC is dragon iconography. The main villain, Mesmer, has eyes. I don't think they're dragon eyes. I think that the community might have it wrong, but they do look almost exactly like dragon eyes. He's got armor set on that looks a bit like the Drake set that we're gonna find near the end of the game. It really seems like he's doing it really seems like, and there's other dragon powers we see as well that have been added, like new dragon powers. So it really seems like that this dragon communion idea might feature in the DLC somewhat. One thing that FromSoft likes to do with its DLC, or with all of its marketing, is they'll have some sort of like flagship character. So for instance, all of the marketing for the original release focused on Melania. You know, she was the one you could get figurines of. She was the one who showed up in all the trailers. We're gonna see technically you don't have to fight Melania to beat this game. Melania is not essential to the plot of the game. Would you hold still for a second so I can murder you? Thought that was going to do him in. So, long story short, I do think Mesmer is going to be very important. Just like Melania is going to be very important to this lore. I do not think he will be, you know, the main big bad of the DLC. But it's going to be fun speculating about him because he's the one we've gotten to see. He's the one that we actually have some information on. But I seriously doubt that he is the true villain of the DLC. Anyway, this is the cave on the shore that Bach told us to come to. And there he is.
Oh. What are you doing here? You must leave this place at once. They'll rush in and beat you to a pulp. You'll end up just like me. Oh.
It is amazing that you can hold a torch and they still don't see you. And see, this is what I was talking about a little bit with how even though there are reused assets and layouts, there is a lot of difference in sort of the story that these dungeons tell. Because this is, like, obviously the same as the same layout as the first cave that we did, but the story that it's telling is very different. We see, you know, the Demi-Humans have made a home here. We see all these human corpses and everything. And here we see just a very different sort of custom boss arena that sort of fits with the Demi-Human, like, swarm idea. Again, we are going to summon Old Knight Istvan. Old Knight Istvan is interesting. Or is it Istvan? Yeah, Old Knight Istvan. Old Knight Istvan is interesting because we're only going to see him one more time. He's never going to appear in person. We only interact with him through summons. Good lord. Sometimes you get swarmed a little bit. Have you already pulled the second dude? Dude! This is a much harder fight without the summon. Let's try to save Old Knight Istvan here from, oh, never mind, he has a flask. Because without the summon, it's 2-on-1. It's just much more difficult to... it's a much more difficult fight. Not like super difficult, but it would take a little more work. But you see, with him, it's basically trivial. And again, we're not going to see him. We're not going to see him again. We're going to... we're never going to see him in this world. We're only going to see him as a summon. But there is still a little bitty story there. And this was the island that Yura was talking about. With its tiny chapel up here. We still have another 15 minutes. I'm trying to decide what other dungeons I might enjoy doing. But here you can see, you know, the dragon statues. There's actually a dead dragon here. And then you can burn one of these hearts to get one of the dragon communion powers. We may do one of these, ultimately. Oh, did I accidentally increase Arcane instead of Faith? Then we will definitely do one of these. Because I didn't mean to do that, but that's what that's for. Well, I'll think about it. I'll think about how we want to do that. That was a mistake. I actually meant to level Faith, but that's okay. So the item we got is this tailoring tools.
Oh. What are you doing here? You must leave this place at once. They'll rush in and beat you to a pulp. Well, you'll end up just like me. Wait. Is that what I think it is? You got it back for me. My sewing needle. What made you go and do a thing like that? My mum was a seamstress, and that sewing kit was all I had to remember her by. I always wanted to be just like sweet old mum. Then I suppose I can't just curl up and die, can I?
Bach is the best. He's just, you know, there are very few just like, oh yeah, I leveled up the wrong thing. There are very few just like pure characters in this game, and he is essentially the only one. What do I think would be the easiest way to do this? Okay, so we have time to do one more sort of side dungeon. So let's pick something. And we've got. I think we can do a pretty tough one. So let's go ahead and do one of my favorite like non-story side dungeons in the game. You know, there's a lot of caves and stuff, but very few seem to have this level of detail put into them. It's also an exploration of some of the themes and ideas from the game that I'm most curious about and interested in. So I was really excited to get to this one, and since it doesn't really interact with any of the rest of the story, this seems like as good a time as any to do it. So, oh, here he comes. Watch me not be able to get to it after I build it up, because can't beat this dude. Let's look at the Beast Crest Heater Shield that we just got. Features a beast as its crest, serving to remind warriors not to succumb to the arousal of battle. Fight with passion, but become not its prisoner. And actually, I think we want to equip that. I think that's better in basically every single way. So we're going to learn the reason Godfrey is associated with beasts is because he took on a beast as a companion. We're gonna hear another NPC's voice here in a second. We're gonna ignore it for now. We'll come back to it.
Can you hear me? Help me. I'm stuck.
Sorry, I want to be able to take my time in this dungeon that we're headed towards. So notice these giant octopuses. I think that nautical, and we've got a Trina's Lily. I think that these nautical references were supposed to be more common in the game. There's a lot of evidence that there were like sea creature type monsters and stuff that were ultimately cut. In the DLC trailer, a lot of people think that they've seen like prowls of boats and stuff, so maybe some of that stuff will make a return there, but it's hard to tell. And here we see this is, we're going to learn this is a divine tower. It's a place of divinity, basically. It's one of the most important areas of the game. Lore-wise. And now we will head into, again, one of my favorite sort of side dungeons in the whole game. So you may have noticed, leading up to this, you might have seen these pillars sort of baked into the landscape as if they're like part of the world. They're sort of holding it up. I don't know what that's about. It's almost like this world was built on top of another world. And I don't want to claim that that's the DLC world that it's built on top of, because I don't think that makes sense quite. But we do know that the world that we're in now was built by America to hide the DLC world. And also to hide a lot of other things. So, you know, we can see these touches sort of at the top. You know, it's sort of a naturalist-looking cave, but you can also see these pillars, which also appear to be part of the environment. And then, as you head down, well, I don't think we're actually headed down yet. I really should upgrade this sword if I'm going to keep using it for a while. It's starting to feel a little spongy. You can see, you know, they dragged a body, the wolves dragged a body down here. The wildlife down here is a little scary. And then we're going to delve even further in. I love this place. We continue to see these, you know, giant pillars. It is amazing to me that that's not a fake wall, but that's okay. And then we'll head downward, and we see someone set up a camp here. And it's almost entirely... Well, let's give it a second. Someone has set up a camp here. Someone was down here sort of excavating or something. Like, they moved in pretty deep. Not sure why there's an Arteria leaf here. But yeah, we've got supplies, we've got, you know, fuel and stuff. Yep, and we see it's the Kaiden Raiders, the mercenaries that we've been running into, that are down here for the most part. And I speculate, and it's complete speculation because there's no evidence for this other than that. I speculate that the whole reason the Raiders agreed to take this job was because they wanted to get down here. There's something down here they're looking for. What? That's why I switched to the shield. Why did it still hit me? And then, of course, the wolves turned out to be too, or the wildlife turned out to be too tough to handle. And here we see, you know, this grand structure, and you know, it's a big reveal. It's really cool. But also, it's one of the few places in the game where you see running water. That sort of on in this part of the world, in the area of the world that you're supposed to be able to see, that you're supposed to find. There's tons of water in this game. There's water everywhere. But there's only running water in a few places. And clearly some work. This isn't a, you know, a dungeon layout that we see a lot of. I hate fighting these bats. This isn't a dungeon layout that, like a lot of dungeon layouts are repeated, layouts. They aren't unique. This is a unique dungeon layout. You don't see this anywhere else. And clearly a lot of work has been put into making it look specifically this way. And part of that is this whole idea that there's just a ton of running water everywhere. Any other bats coming? Yep. I want to stop and look at that sword we just picked up, but I gotta kill this dude first, I guess. So let's look at this. This is sort of a distinctive look with the point on it. I don't want to say that it's identical to one that we're going to see later that's more lore relevant, but it does have a sort of distinctive look to it. It's not your average sword, and it says curved sword with a thin blade of ample length. Light of weight despite its larger size. Its slicing attacks come in rapid succession. Devastatingly powerful weapon in the hands of a skilled swordsman. And then the skill is a spinning slash, favored by dexterous warriors. We're going to see a little about the owner of this sword in just a second. I don't know that that's actually his sword, but it's a sword similar to the type that he'd use. So we'll see how it goes. More of those raiders got down here. Again, I think they were looking for something down here. That is my analysis. I could be right or wrong on that, but that is my guess. More of these sort of balled up octopuses. Again, I think these nautical creatures were originally intended to have a bigger role. So this one says land octopuses eat humans in order to bear young, and theirs is the blood that runs through these ovaries. So they are stealing our blood in order to give birth to their own children. And this is something that, this is the idea of having to find weird, exotic ways to give birth is like a running theme throughout the game. It's not there is something wrong with the regular cycle of birth in the Lands Between. We can see that we also got this turtleneck. I don't know if it's a material or what, but do we have it? Do we see the turtleneck? Could have sworn I picked up the turtleneck. Let's not spend... Here it just says, considered an especially nutritious ingredient in the south of the Lands Between. It's used for, like, stamina increasing stuff, but also it's, in sort of the beta build of the game, it said that it was used as kind of a, like, aid for people who struggled to give birth. Or that it increased stamina as sort of like a sexual aid. But that it was rarely used because people didn't really do that anymore in the Lands Between. And then that was cut for some reason. But this idea of birth being something that's difficult and rare in this world is just constant. It's everywhere. But anyway, we got a new talisman. It's the Blue Dancer Charm. And it says, a cloth doll depicting a dancer garbed in blue. An ancient heirloom of some sort. Raises attack power with lower equipment load. The dancer in blue represents a fairy who in legend bestowed a flowing sword upon a blind swordsman. Blade in hand, the swordsman sealed away an ancient god, a god that was rot itself. This blind swordsman is a massively important character who does not appear in this game. We're going to hear about him a lot. We're going to hear about the fairy some. I think it's relevant that she's blue. We met Rena the Witch, who is blue. I don't know that they're the same being. Well, I know that they're not the same being. The Rena that we met is not the same as this fairy. But, I don't know if they're connected or not, but I suspect they are. And then we've got this swordsman, who shows up again and again. We hear about the swordsman, and then, like, he never shows up in the game because he's ancient. He existed, you know, a long time ago. I hate to keep harping on this. Giant rot scorpion, an ancient super powerful, almost supernaturally good swordsmen, all seem like cool things to include in a DLC. I don't know if they'll appear or not. There really isn't a lot other than some of the dancer imagery. There really isn't a lot to suggest that they will, but I suspect they will, just because it's kind of too good an opportunity to pass up. But yeah, so I love this cave. I love sort of the way that it descends and it gets more and more open and interesting as it goes. I love that it's right here under this divine tower, implying that there is something about that it's part of this construction, which we're going to learn predates the castle over here. I love that it has the Golem as the sort of guardian. We're going to learn that the golems were made by this mysterious inventor, who we don't have a lot more information on, but clearly existed long, long ago. And I love that it has that running water thing going on. I love that there's the Caden warriors in it, giving us some idea that they might... Good lord, stop moving. Hold still. God, I hate these guys. I love that it's giving us some... I love that it's got the Caden warriors in it, giving us some indication that maybe they're... maybe they have motives of their own that are different than those of their paymasters. It's a very cool little area that you can completely miss, that you don't even have to ever, like, it has nothing to do with the rest of the game. You don't ever have to see it. And the lore that it deals with is, like, very deep background stuff that we don't really have good information on, because this storyline focuses harder on the shattering and the things that happened, you know, centuries later, centuries after whatever that, the swordsman and the rod and all of that. So, again, the DLC is promising us that we're going to get answers to things that happened earlier than what happened in this game. It would be a great opportunity for them to bring some of that stuff back. I look forward to seeing if they do or not. So that's going to wrap it up for now. In fact, I'm way over time. But next episode, we're not really going to continue with Limgrave much. This seems like a good we've met a lot of the NPCs. There's a couple that I'm saving, but we've met many of them. We've seen a lot of what the sort of what the story of Limgrave is. We've got a good idea of who our opponent is. It seems like a good idea to it seems like a good time to go ahead and take a break and go do an area that's far to the south, called the Weeping Peninsula. And this area is technically part of Limgrave. We're gonna learn, you know, the people there are bannermen of Godric. It's part of his. I'm gonna use. It's part of his territory. But the stories that it tells are less about Godric and Limgrave and our immediate focus, and it's more a preview of storylines we're going to see as we move through the game. So it's, like I said, I love the fact that it's this onion, that this world is this onion. You start out on Limgrave and it's sort of this typical fantasy. There's a bad lord and he's ruining the land and you've got to take him out. Sort of dark fantasy feel. And that as the game goes on, we discover these other elements and things get weirder and more more broad and kind of more interesting. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. This will be just sort of a little preview of that. It's going to take a couple episodes because it's a big area, but that's what we'll be doing moving forward.